Hi guys, hi everyone. So this is my part 2 with my conversation initiation with an Archon. If you have not seen part 1 or listened to part 1, I suggest you listen to part 1 first and then come back to this video. I will put the link down below for you. But before I jump into it, there's a couple of things that I want to just go back over again. First thing is your protection. You are only protected as much as your trust in your protection is. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Your protection is you're only protected as much as your trust in your protection is. So if you've called in, God, creator, source, your spirit guides, the elements, sun and masters, whatever it is that you use for protection, if you've called them in, you're protected, guys, okay? If you have doubts or you don't have any trust in your own protection, you're the one creating the weak link. It took me years to figure this out, just to let you know. I went through, my problem that I was having was I would put my protection up and then I would have all these beings come through. And it took me the longest time to finally figure out that my guides were always with me. But they were allowing these beings to come in because sometimes you need these lower vibrational beings to teach us lessons. We need them. But the guides are only going to allow you to allow them into your field if it's for a lesson that you need to learn. And when and even if they allow them in your field, they're constantly monitoring. Believe me, you're going to hear this conversation. And one of the reasons why I'm posting this video with my conversation with an Archon is to show you where my guides jump in and they're like, okay, it's done. They step in and put their protection up for me. So not put my protection up, but basically, I want to show you where they jump in and say, okay, she's learned a lesson. You're done. You're no longer needed. It's showing you how they, I don't want to say regulated the conversation, but they made sure that how this conversation that didn't pose a risk to me, okay, to this initiation that I did not know that I was going through. But anyway, the other thing that I want to talk about is that I'm a firm believer history is not what we've been told. I do believe it's been manipulated by different beings for different control processes. At the time, the Archons are beings who use our unconscious thoughts, our thought processes. And I had, at one point, again, I told you in part 1, how I went down the whole rabbit hole about the reptilian beings and Anunnaki. So what this Archon did in this conversation was, it was pooling these beings. Do I think that when we go into this conversation, one of the questions I ask is about the Knights Templar. Do I believe that, I think what it was saying when it says the reptilian beings or the Anunnaki, I think what it really overall means is that a group of nefarious beings who who have ill intent for humanity. But what this Archon did was pull that title, that name, from thought processes, okay? So, again, take this with a grain of salt. If this does not resonate with you about Knights Templar, that's okay. This is what came through from the Archon. Again, might be, you're probably going to be, I was like, I had to really break through the thought processes of what I've been programmed to believe about certain things. So that's the other thing. Third thing is, you're going to see where I struggle in this conversation. I actually get very overwhelmed at one point from my partner. The Archon, the question is asking me, my heart coming through, my heart energy, my heart center coming through. So you're going to see that struggle that I had at one point. And the biggest thing that I can say to anyone going down this journey, going down this path, is pay attention to the energy. It's very, very important. Pay attention to your knowing. If something feels off or something just doesn't feel right, or you feel a shift, you know, it's like when you walk in a room and you just feel something shifted and you're like, well, what was that? Pay attention. That's energy. Start paying attention to how energy feels. It's very important, especially with discernment, guys, okay? And you'll actually see where, in a way, I was actually very thankful that for all my lessons of discernment, that it allowed me to be able to feel the changes in energy, and that is what enabled me to go through this process, through this initiation also. So I don't think my guides could have put me through this initiation had I not gone through and been more aware of how energy feels, okay? So here we go. All right, so where I left off was, it asked me, the Archon was like, you know, let's open up with another question and see what logical answer you and I come up with. So my question was about Knights Templar. Can you tell me anything about Knights Templar? And now I chose that question because I've been told that there's some kind of information about the Knights Templar that pertains to me. There's some key to it, to my past. I no longer dwell on that. It's a past. It doesn't serve me in the now. So don't get hung up on your past stuff, guys. It is helpful and gives you a basis, but don't become obsessed with your past, because all you're telling the universe is that the present has no value. Okay. All right, so here we go. Sorry, let me flip that. Okay. So I said, can you give me information about the Knights Templar? So it says, so the Archon says, that was a very long time ago. Many altered their thought processes by using a potion named opium. You're so interesting. Of all the questions you could have asked, you chose one that only a few remember in their thought processes. Quite impressive. The Knights Templar were not crusaders as the few remember in this lifetime. Radical religion and potion opium made for a very brutal time in human history. The bad humans, for lack of a more fitting term, were the soldiers and the priests, and the religion today known as Catholicism. The soldiers were to murder all the people who were not in support of the new religion. Peace and harmony did not exist. People hid from the soldiers, however many were murdered or hanged. Human consciousness and thought processes were a torn ligament. Humans could not connect to universal consciousness because altering one state with the opium caused a massive disconnection. Remember, we're all connected to each other. You know, we're all connected. So this opium was actually separating the human consciousness. So opium and many other potions were used to destroy the universal consciousness. So then I said, well, then who created the opium? And I said, that is an interesting question. Originally, it was used to treat pain and discomfort in humans, but it was a universal consciousness destroyer. The priests would give it to the soldiers, who used it on people who would not convert to Catholicism. This allowed the soldiers to rape and place their hands on property of the people, and that was just the beginning. The priests would torch the records of the humans who would not convert, that were hanged or murdered. So at that point, I had to take a break. I was like, okay, well, this is not what I've been taught. You know, I was like, whoa, I was kind of like questioning it. I was like, all right. But the craziest part of it, as he was telling me the story about as this being was talking to me and telling me the story about the Knights Templar, I actually felt like the energy was being truthful. And that was I was struggling. I was struggling with what we've been taught in our history and the truthfulness that I felt from this being, this Archon. So I asked the Archon if I could sit out for a minute, because I was trying to regroup myself about this. So goes on. So, sorry, I'm sitting on my floor. So I go back in to sit, and the Archon came back through. And I said, hello again. Shall we continue our answer to the Templar question you asked? And I said, yes. So I said, the Archon said, you're really quite interesting. The teaching of who the Knights Templar has been a tale created by a separate group that your universal consciousness calls the Anunnaki. So then I sat there and I doused. I was like, wait a second. Am I talking to the Anunnaki and not an Archon? Like, am I being tricked? And so then what the Archon said, trust is difficult for humans. Your thoughts are very scattered right now. So, and I admitted that. I said, yes, I told it that I was checking. Again, this being can read my thought process and my conscience. So I can't lie to it. You know, I'm like, so I said, yes, you know, I wanted to make sure that you were who you were saying you were, and that you weren't, and it wasn't a trickery by some Anunnaki being, you know. So, and that was creating my thoughts. My thoughts were getting scattered. So it says to me, so I responded truthfully to it. So the Archon says, one truth deserves another. So it says, your partner wants a sexual encounter with you, but you do not feel like having a sexual encounter. I was finding this conversation very interesting, and I wanted to stay in this channel that I was doing. So it says, you're so unique understanding what his needs are. You know that he and his son will not ascend together, yet you are not telling the truth to him. So I have seen a timeline regarding my partner and his son that may or may not happen. I believe that we are given choices, but I also believe that we can manifest things. So my thought process is that if I was to tell my partner what I saw regarding him and his son, that they would actually manifest that, and not allow it to naturally occur if it was meant to occur. So, and this does bother me. This does, it's hard for me. It's very hard for me. I love my partner, and I love his son. So it definitely, it's a lot. It's a lot, guys. So it says, you know that he and his son will not ascend together, yet you're not telling the truth. Please explain yourself. So now it wants me to explain, why am I not telling the truth to my partner? And I explained what I just explained to you. So the Archon responded, quite clearly, you're not telling the truth to him. Perhaps you should tell him and leave it up to him to decide how to process that information. So he says, we understand that truth is not always what someone wants to hear. However, it is the truth. So then I went on and said, well, you know, the problem is that humans, we manifest things. We create our world. We create our reality. We believe in something, then it's going to happen to us, you know. So then it said, the Archon said, we understand that truth is hard and a lot can be created. So at that point, I was getting very, I was kind of getting a little, I was feeling a lot of emotions, you know. Should I go down there, talk to, you know, I was like, should I go tell my partner, what do I need to do? Like, all of a sudden now I'm feeling guilty that I'm not telling the truth to my partner. I'm getting all these different thoughts coming through. Now, what happens next is my spirit guides come through, and they're guiding me, okay? They are with me through this conversation. And this is the first time that my guides come through to me. And they tell me, keep a clear channel, Mina. Mina is my soul name. Denise is my birth name. And I could feel that I was okay. But my guides were coming through telling me to stick with it. Clear your mind. Get back into it. Clear your channel, Mina. So I knew my guides were alongside of me. I had nothing to fear. Okay? So then I tried to do it. I tried to do it through words and stuff, and I couldn't do it. And my channel was getting, I just could not stay focused, and I didn't know what was going on. So what was happening was my partner and I are very interconnected, Dennis and I think he felt he knew something was wrong. I think his higher self was trying to come through. It could tell that I was in some kind of distress. I think it could tell with my heart energy, because we were just talking about his son and him and stuff. So he was trying to come through. His energy was trying to come through too. So all of this, I'm being hit with all of this at the time, and my guides are telling me to stick with clear, Mina, clear yourself. So then the Archon said, so before the Archon, my guides came through and told me that someone else was trying to connect. And then I realized that it was Dennis's energy that I was feeling. So my guides were guiding me through this process, okay? So the Archon goes and says, people will always prefer truth over a lie. You told the truth to Dennis, and he was able to process the information without being upset. So what I did was I had broken off the conversation, and I went into Dennis's higher self, and I told him what I had seen. And what this Archon was doing was, it said that he was able to process this information. Again, it's up to him how he processes it. It's not my duty or my job for him to figure out how he's going to process it. The truth is the truth. Okay? That's what this Archon's telling me. But, so, the Archon said, you seem to be in distress. You do not want to harm Dennis. So then it goes and it says, thank you for acknowledging that you didn't tell Dennis the truth about his son. That seems to weigh heavy on your heart process. No wonder that all humans do not tell the truth. It can be a detriment to a person whose heart process it is connected to. So it actually thanked me for that whole experience that I just went through, and how I laid it all out. I was truthful to it, how I felt. So then the Archon said, your heart process is constantly receiving information that your heart process must understand that can be detrimental to another human. So someone who has abilities, this is a burden sometimes. You see things. I might go and I might shake someone's hand or be in someone's energy, and I might see something about that person. And part of me wants to say something to them, but I can't. It's their journey, it's their path. And as a nurse, I want to assist, but I also know that it's their journey. So it really weighs heavy on me sometimes. So your heart process is heavy. You truly care about humans. You're so compassionate. That is a pain that you feel almost all the time. So then it paused, and it realized I just gave it my biggest weakness. So what I did was I just gave this being who basically said he was going to starve me to death, to kill the humans and everything else, I just gave it my biggest weakness. And that was that I care so much about people. And I can genuinely say that if I saw a complete stranger that was in trouble, whether I would step in line in that bullet and take that bullet for that person. That's how strong I feel for other people. And it is a pain, when I'm taking care of someone who is dying or is in trouble. It's huge. It's huge for me. So, major weakness. Anybody can manipulate me. It's through that. And I just revealed it to my enemy. So so during that pause, it responded, trusting us to reveal a weakness. Like, she just trusted us. You are not like a human brain at all. Instead of trying to hide your weakness, you showed it to us. Archons cannot feel emotions. You managed to make us sense an emotion that we have never felt before. You are special. Thank you. You are a different kind of human. You're like a million things all in one package. So then I responded, thank you. And I said, no, thank you. This has been a very enlightening communication. So then it said that I wanted to stop. And this Archon was like, no, can we continue the conversation? I wanted to keep on going. And it said, please communicate a little longer. So then I said, okay, all right, yeah, I'll continue. It would be an honor to continue with you. Yes. So then it went through. So then it goes back through. It jumps back into the religion piece, the Knights Templar. So it says, here we go again. The religion Catholicism was a way to control the humans. It was created by a race of beings known to the universal consciousness as the reptilians. There is no God, as you have been taught to believe. There is only one being. At that point, I felt my head tingle. The soldiers were reptilian-like beings. You need to trust and tell the brain to stop interfering. So at this point, I'm getting weird message. I'm just kind of like, my brain is trying to override everything. So now my brain's trying to come in through the channeling, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay. And I'm trying to stay focused. It's really hard for me. So, so then I was like, I really want to make sure I'm getting this information correct. I was like, I wanted to bring out my pendulum and start confirming what this was saying, because I was like, now I'm having conflict of thought, because this is not what I've been taught. So now I'm just like, okay, what's the truth? My brain is like, okay, you got to start giving me something here. So I was like, so I pulled out my pendulum, and I was like to the Archon, I said, I want to just confirm this information. And I said that I don't want to misinterpret or miscommunicate what you're saying to me. So it said, the Archon said, quite an intelligent answer and a reasonable request. So I said, very well, you may continue to use the pointed object, my pendulum, pointed object. So it says, after the soldiers murdered many humans, the priests were not satisfied. And at that point, my pendulum, I'm just kind of spinning in. I'm just trying to feel the energy of what's going on around, what's happening. And my pendulum, before that, was flowing pretty easily. Then all of a sudden, my pendulum got really heavy, like almost like a weight on it. And all of a sudden I felt like almost like a static, like it was like a change. There was a change in the energy, and meanwhile my pendulum is spinning, but it's really, really heavy, and I'm like, something's happening, what's going on? At that point I felt like I lost the Archon. And then it was so my guides came through, and one of my guides told me that to please wait, that this Archon was being communicated with by another being. Well, that was my other guide. That was my guides it was communicating with. So my guides were saying, okay, they were starting to pull the plug, if you will, from this conversation. And then what I received, as I was sitting there waiting for this to come through, the next thing that I received was in capital letters, in a very authoritative voice that I heard. It was that it said, this is not allowed. So I think that Archon wanted to continue, and my guide stepped in and said, no more. This is done. You're done. So, so then what came through was that your stand against our being will no longer impact us. So I'm not sure where that was, that was like a weird, I didn't know whether that was my guides or whether that was the Archon that came through. So then I was being instructed, please do not extend communication again with the Archons. So I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden it was like the energy switched again. All of a sudden my pendulum went, instead of from being so heavy, all of a sudden my pendulum got really light, started swinging kind of wildly. And I got the words, congratulations. And I'm like, congratulations? Like, what? And it said, what came through was that you passed the test. And I'm like, excuse me? I passed what test? So the Archon ended up coming back through. My guides allowed the Archon to come back through. And the Archon said, your spirit guides are so proud of you. So an Archon was sent to perform my initiation, to see my trust in another being that could be considered my enemy. Your statement about wanting to make sure you received the information allowed us to proceed to pass you and move you forward in your progress. You are a very special human. Your ability to trust your enemy and allow your weaknesses to be shown is a difficult thing for humans. So then I felt the energy shift again. So I knew that I was no longer talking with the Archon, and my guides came back through. And my guides were saying, they said to me, we want you to understand how important this moment is. And they were basically telling me, they were happy. They were so excited that I passed, that I managed to do this. But they also went on to say that there are some Archons out there that do want to assist humans. So when I was like, well, why was it an Archon, But anyway, so my guides came through and were telling me that I'm just reading if there's anything else in here. So my guides went on to say that the Archons were very impressed with your ability to be an open channel. You are important. You are important. You will understand more soon. Placing your trust in an enemy who declared that they were going to kill you is something that many humans cannot process. You underwent one of the hardest tests for a soul to ascend. And again, they said, you are so proud of you. So then I asked my guides, I wanted to thank this being, this Archon, for doing what it did for me. So my guides allowed the Archon to come back through. And so what came through, the Archon turned around. The Archon actually apologized for lying to me that it was going to kill me and, annihilate the human race and do all these things. It actually apologized. And it said, please accept apologies for lying to you. Went on to say, your pureness is a rare quality. We know your heart was heavy, but you told him the truth and how your heart process is freed. And then it goes on to just talk about a few other things that came through, and then the Archon and I parted ways. So it was very, very informative for me, and it really showed me how my guides, they were with me the whole time. I needed to go through that initiation for me to take in that concept of they're there. Your guides are right there, guys. I'm having this conversation with an Archon, an Archon, for crying out loud, okay? And at no point was I fearful of this Archon, because I knew my guides were right there. And in this conversation, it shows you where my guides, when it started getting to a point, my guides are, okay, enough, done. This is done. You've done your part. Thank you. So they shut it down. So I decided to, so this was a few months ago, and when I got the message that my guides wanted me to post this video, I was like, oh, okay. So I wanted to sit on and see if I could get any more information about the Archons. And what came through is that Archons are spirits that have chosen a different path. Those spirits reside in another plane known as the eighth sphere, or oftentimes called hell. So in Rudolf Steiner's work, he talks about how all of our thoughts, all our darker thoughts, our anger, our sadness, all of these thoughts have migrated themselves up into this a sphere, if you will, of thought processes. And this is where and some of this energy of these thought processes have actually been creating beings, have created beings. So you have these angry, all these different thought processes, and then you have these lower vibrational beings, because anger and all is lower vibration. It's not like love. So in religion, it would call it hell. So he calls it the eighth sphere. So there are different levels of malicious beings, some more malicious than others. The Archon that communicated with you was an Archon of inner knowing. So there must be other levels, and maybe one day I'll channel more into that. But this Archon itself was a specific Archon, and I think that's why they allowed this Archon in. It was, I think they have different jobs like we do too. And this is an Archon of inner knowing. They assist in evolving souls that want to raise their level of self-awareness. The mistake that many make when they call on a higher being to assist them. So when this Archon came through, what a lot of people do right out of the gate during an initiation is they allow their fear to step in. Oh my gosh, it's an Archon. Oh my gosh, it's a dark. Oh, whoa. Wait a minute. I'm not, and again, I'm not saying have a full-blown conversation. If you're not protected, then no, there's something nefarious with that being, okay? But when this Archon came through, a lot of times if you pay attention to the energy, again, discernment energy, it didn't have the trickster energy about it. It was just very straightforward energy. So that's one of the reasons why I wasn't fearful. I didn't feel that trickster energy, like it was going to try and manipulate me, and then I would end up with this being attached to me in some shape or form. I didn't feel that kind of energy. It was just very direct. So most people would have called in, the minute they found out they're talking to an Archon, would have immediately been like, I'm calling in Archangel Michael, and I'm calling in so-and-so. Well, I didn't do that. I didn't react at all from fear. I just proceeded the conversation, and that allowed this initiation to continue the process. So a lot of people, when they go through this, I think that they don't make it through because they allow that fear to step in. When you refuse to call on Archangel Michael, it showed that your soul understood that it could no longer hurt you, that I was protected. I knew I was protected. Think of it as another being, like on a play. So what they were showing me was the class, the school. You're in school and you got the playground bully, and he beats you up every day. And then finally, the one day you stand up for yourself and you're saying, "I'm done," and then you kick the bully's butt, if you will, and the bully never bothers you again. So what it was saying was that this was also part of my initiation, was that I showed my guides or whoever is initiating us that by me not stepping into fear and standing my ground, that I knew it couldn't hurt me, that I was telling the bully of the playground, you can't hurt me anymore. And what it was showing me, what came through, was that what I went through that was also an initiation of a soul in human form evolving, the human understanding of what it means to know thyself. So I knew I was okay. So that was another part of the initiation, was me understanding that I could stand my ground, I'm okay. There's nothing to fear, guys. Nothing to fear. Fear is used to control us. Okay? If you've called in your protection and you've employed your spirit guides, there's nothing to fear. So I hope this video helps show people how your spirit guides work with you, helps show you part of the initiation process. Everyone is going to go through a different initiation. This was one of my initiation things. I just went through another big initiation on 9/9 the other day. One day I'll probably post a video about that. That was a definitely much different initiation. But for now, this video is getting long. So I hope this showed you. And again, when the Archon talks about, reptilians and Anunnaki, it's pulling the universal thought processes of the universal consciousness of what people think. So, do I believe in the Anunnaki and the reptilians? I do believe that there is a nefarious race out there. I'm not going to call them Anunnaki. I don't believe that story about the Anunnakis coming down and doing all this. No. There is a group out there that wants us to believe it, but I don't, currently that doesn't resonate with me anymore. So, yeah. Anyway, have a great day, guys. If you have any questions, comments, you can email me. You can put them down below. If you like this video and if you hit the like button, it tells me what videos I'm trying to start the channel. So it kind of gives me an idea of what I should pay more attention to put forward to you guys. And yeah, if you want, hit the subscribe button for me. And I think that's it. Have a great day, guys. Bye.